Hello and welcome to Throw the Dice, a series in which we discuss and explore GM tips, RPG systems, and general guides on how to get started or engage more with tabletop RPGs. With popular streams like Critical Role, Dice Camera Action, Dragons and Things, and Maze Arcana, and many more, bringing interest to the hobby more than ever, I found myself getting asked time and time again, how do I even start? What system should I run? How do I find players? Today, we'll be exploring the very basics, the first question that anyone has had to answer when starting to play or run tabletop RPGs. Where do I begin? This video is aimed at new individuals or groups to the hobby, and will offer some tips, tricks, and ways to gather a party, decide on which system you want to run or play, and then get started with it. Whether you're looking to play the game for the first time after watching many of the amazing streams or YouTubers out there, or if you're taking the dive into dungeon mastering for the first time, this video may help you out. Step 1. Decide on a system and theme. So the first thing to decide on when taking the step into the hobby is what you want to play or run. Do you want to have high fantasy adventures, slaying dragons, exploring a fantasy world with a group of friends, forging a path to become heroes or even villains? Do you want to hop on a spaceship and explore the outer reaches of an unknown universe, smuggling, trading, and fighting with laser weapons? Do you want to be an investigator of eldritch horrors that are so unspeakable that they break the sanity of any who dare look upon them? Do you want to play a game set in a universe you love, from a comic series or anime even? This decision will form the basis of what to look for with the system you choose to run or play. Personally, as a starting point, I would suggest Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for fantasy. It's simple to pick up and play even if you've never played a tabletop RPG in your life. With a little reading and checking out readily available PDFs, hardback books, and video guides online, you can easily research the system and get to grips with it. The system is created in a way that makes it very accessible and easy to learn, but with enough complexity and rules to still challenge players who are playing it for an extended period of time. On top of this, if you're looking to DM for the first time, the ready-made modules and adventure paths created by wizards are some of the best I've personally encountered for accessibility. Offering up an outline to an adventure which gives you examples of how to run encounters, traps, dungeons, exploration, even social encounters and more. A good example of this is the Lost Mines of Phandelver, which is a great starting point for any new DM or player overall. Whilst it may seem like cheating a little picking up a ready-made adventure path, it really isn't. There's still a lot you can change, customize, make your own, but having that outline can really help you get to know how to run and plan for the game without delaying running for too long. Before you know it, you'll be creating your own fully custom adventures or delving deeper into the other adventure paths and universes offered by wizards and other third-party developers as well. For the DM who wants to run a more complicated game with more depth and mechanics to learn, Pathfinder is an amazing choice. The sheer amount of content, depth, and choice that you have from the many years of development and work on the game, and all the new content that's even still coming out today, even whilst Pathfinder playtest is currently ongoing, allows for an almost endless choice of monsters, classes, races, and adventure paths to run. On top of the official content created by Paizo, there is a very vast third-party developer community which have all worked within the system for years as well, making Pathfinder a great choice for those gamers who love their mechanics and rules, or who love their choice and depth, but also it's quite useful for people who come from a tabletop wargaming background, who may want a more robust combat system and more map tactics to play with. Now, for any other themes, there's a few other suggestions that I'll cover in later videos, but for now I'll cover a couple of those here. There's Savage Worlds, which is a very open system, allowing you to run just about any game in it. The system also has plenty of additional source books for themes, worlds, equipment, and powers that makes it one of the most flexible systems out there. On top of that, it's readily available on sites like RPG Drive-Thru and many other PDF sites and the like, and is relatively easy to get started in as well. The rules aren't too complicated, they're not too difficult to pick up, and character creation is quite simple. For horror games, there's plenty of options, from the World of Darkness series, including Vampire, Werewolf, and Hunter for your more urban or even classic horror experiences, to the Call of Cthulhu RPG, which tackles the concept of investigation and detective work in a world with hidden ancient eldritch horrors and dark lore that tests your investigator's sanity at every twist and turn. A personal favourite for horror games is Unhallowed Metropolis. It's a lesser-known system set in a neo-Victorian world where history diverged and a plague began to cause the dead to rise as zombies known as animates. It's the first system I ever ran, and I'm quite passionate about it. I found myself having a lot of fun in that system overall. I might talk about it in a future video. Finally, for sci-fi, Starfinder by Paizo and the Star Wars RPG are both great options for playing intergalactic adventures, though these two I have the least experience in all honesty. Step 2. Gather your party. So you decided on the theme and the system, you know the basics of your plot, and if you're going to be the DM and you're ready to gather players to play your game, how do you do it? Well, first of all, if you're a player, you have a few options. Either contact friends who you know run the game, or if not, find where players meet in your local community. There are multiple ways to find games being run in your area, such as online boards, such as Reddit, Facebook groups and forums for local gaming groups or events, or the simple and always reliable one of going to a local comics or tabletop gaming store and asking if they host Adventurers League for 5e, or if they have any particular groups for tabletop RPGs currently running in the store as it is. Also, if you're involved in an online community for a show, such as with Critical Role, Twitter and forums related to the series often have individuals asking for players to join games. My first ever campaign I played in near to 8 years ago was found at a local comic store. I found players there that were reliable and became fast friends with them through playing. My first game was 4th edition, so whilst it had its own teething issues to get used to, I generally still loved the game and had a lot of fun with it. I still play with those players today, for some of them at least, though we have moved to running online as our lives have become busier and busier. Unlike when I first started, however, the rise of virtual tabletops such as Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, MapTool, and many more have opened up a whole new realm of possibilities to play tabletop RPGs online. With looking for group posts such as on Reddit, Twitter, and even Facebook groups, along with the forums for the tools themselves, they offer up an easy and accessible way to find a group. If you want to get into a game fast and jump right into playing, I would suggest signing up to Roll20 and making use of their Join a Game option, where you can browse many games currently looking for players, and you can filter them based on what system you want, what kind of days you want, what times you want. There's a lot of options that you can look at on there. I've played and ran many games this way, and have had very little negative experiences finding and running games in this manner. Of course, it's always best to see if you can attend a session 0 to have the GM help you with any sheet or character creation, along with allowing you to meet the group and see if you fit together. If you're a DM, however, you're in a pretty good position to find players. As mentioned before, the easiest way to get into tabletop RPGs as a DM can be to attend events at local conventions or stores, or even to ask if they'll post up a little advertisement for players to play within the store itself. Certain tabletop or comic stores will allow you to do this, and it doesn't hurt to ask. You could also try reaching out to existing friends and contacts who you believe could be interested. If they haven't tried the game before and seem reluctant, send some videos their way, such as Critical Role, Force Grey, or any of the other popular shows, and show them what the game is actually like. In my experience, when people realize what the game is actually like, or that it isn't all about dwelling in basements and exclusionary, and very complicated as a hobby, people are much more excited or prone to giving it a go. Just as with finding a group as a player, as a DM, tools such as the Roll20 Looking for Group allows you to create and pitch your game. Usually you'll find willing players fast, with there being many more players than DMs running on the site in general. This also allows for you to meet new people who otherwise you wouldn't ever play with. I've found multiple now close friends who have come from running online games through this method, and currently even run a community that has games around every month for new players, which grew fast. I would suggest giving this a go. If you don't have many players in your local area especially to meet up with, this can be ideal. It also saves on snack money too, though you can just put that all to yourself if you want. Finally, you'll want to go and arrange a date and roll up characters with the players, talk to them about their ideas, and help guide them through the process if they're new. I find that taking an active role in helping with this side and guiding players can make the concept of playing a little less daunting to new players. Or if they enjoy their space and they already know the rules or want to get to know them themselves, let them roll their own sheet and check on it later before the game, of course. Step 3. Physical or virtual tabletop. So you know your system and you have your party. Ordinarily, this is what decides the type of game you'll be running, or the times at which your players are available. If you are all local, you can host at either a tabletop store if possible, or your player's house, or your own house. There's a lot of options when it comes to this, and also there's the discussion of who buys the snacks and who hosts where and when, but all of this is relatively easy to decide on and discuss. If you have a physical tabletop game, it may be worth having your players buy a binder to keep their sheets in. They can also put a combat reference sheet and even a condition sheet in there to give them a reminder of exactly what they can do. These sorts of quick reference sheets are handy, especially for new players to understand what each action does and what actions they can take at a given time. Along with these sheets and their character sheet, they can keep track of notes in a small notebook or even on paper in the binder itself, whichever they feel is more suitable and they enjoy. You will also need sets of dice. These can be found for relatively cheap at tabletop gaming stores or online. It may be worth either getting a pool of dice for your players as the GM to use, or asking for them to buy their own personal sets to bring to game. If the game is a one-shot though, definitely go for the first option. On top of this, you could use battle maps and dry wipe markers to draw out terrain for the players to see, or you can make use of the old classic, paper. In my own games, I make use of a collection of flip mats from Paizo for the Pathfinder game. These double-sided mats, which are just blank terrain, are really useful when drawing out battle mats on the go. I can't suggest these enough. There's also the question of other things, such as if you want to use a DM screen, a dice tower, initiative trackers, but these are all topics for another day. Now, alternatively, you could use a virtual tabletop, which comes with a little learning curve and research into which virtual tabletop works for you personally. The most popular options are Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, but there are plenty of other new and old options out there to test. Some people even make use of Tabletop Simulator to create large 3D battle maps and use sheets externally. The use of a virtual tabletop removes some of the pressures of having dice, mats, initiative trackers, hell, even pencils and snacks. The benefit of using these tools is that you can host the game at hours that may be difficult for a physical game to take place. You can even play with old friends across the country from you and people from other countries even. This allows for a much larger pool of players, and many tools offer inbuilt sheets that are accessible and easy to set up. I've been running virtual games for around 5 years to date, and it's become one of my main ways of running games. There's links to some of these in the description below, along with some of the other tools I've mentioned. Step 4. Prepare the game. One of the last steps to take is to prepare to run your game. First up, you'll want to schedule the game at a time that suits the players and yourself. This can be hard, but making use of multiple options in, say, a poll is a great way to get a quick idea of when people are free. Or simply just talk to your players and see what you agree on. If it's in person, then you'll want to set out the tabletop space, get out the dice, the mats, and make sure you have your binder with your sheets, plans, and quick references. If you're the GM, make sure to also bring extra pencils, dice, erasers, and your books for the players to reference if they don't have their own, which, when they're starting out, they usually won't have. If you haven't planned the session already, it's best to get working on that now. There are lots of ways to plan for sessions, many methods and styles of doing it. If it's a pre-made adventure, read it cover to cover, then read the section you specifically are running that day in detail, right before the game. Be prepared to improvise when players ask or do something that deviates from the books, however. The fun of tabletop role-playing is in its collaborative storytelling, so expect wrenches in the works almost every time. If you're running a custom game, prepare your notes and maps. and be ready to run and answer any questions thrown your way. Be sure to note down any additional facts, notes, lore, or NPCs that you create through improvisation. You don't want to forget you said it later down the line. Players have long memories for these things normally, or they don't, and you get away with it, which I definitely have not done multiple times in the past. If it's a virtual tabletop, make sure you get the notes and character sheets prepared. Ensure that you have your maps pre-prepared and ready to be brought up when the time comes. It's also nice to prepare cohesive player and enemy tokens through things such as Token Tool or the tools on Roll Advantage in the description below. Some good mapping tools for virtual tabletop include Pyromancer's Dungeon Painter, the simple but effective tool on Deep Night, and Incarnate, to only mention a few. Of course, you can always just throw them together in any image editing program or purchase pre-made packs of maps to use. This is of course assuming you're using battle maps. If you do Theatre of the Mind, well, I'm sure you can get creative with that. Another thing to consider is sound effects and music. Personally, I find music and ambience to be a large part of the experience. Getting a playlist of spooky or epic music for different moments can really drive that tension or that heartbreaking moment when a character dies home. There are many methods of using music in tabletop games and many places to get music from, but I'll do a video on that another time. The final step, running the game. The day is here. You've rolled your characters, you've made your plans, you've decided who's buying the snacks, you've arranged your date and time. The players arrive at the gates, and so it begins. The real fun starts here. If you're playing, you turn up and prepare to delve into dungeons, political plots, or who knows what else. If you're the DM, get ready to take everyone on a journey and see their story through. If it's a one-shot or even a campaign, the nerves can still be there. But so long as you did your preparation and you made sure to communicate with the group and you're all ready to go, you should have a great time overall. Ultimately, as much as it may seem quite a bit of work to set up, it will be well worth that time. So finally, to sign off this video, enjoy. Go throw some dice, go make some friends, and enjoy your game. I wish your campaign the best of luck and your characters good rolls. Until next time, this has been Madical with Throw the Dice. I hope you enjoyed this video and it helps you in any way, even if it's minor. If you enjoyed this, make sure to hit subscribe and to comment below on any of your own tips or stories of your first games. I'd love to read about them and hear about them. Thank you for watching once more, and see you in the next one.